let's get into it. So for those of you who don't know me, yeah, my name is Scott Rogers. I'm the CEO of eSkilled. I've been around the vet sector for around 15 years. I've acted in numerous roles, from CEO of 3 RTOs over that time. I'm super passionate about training and compliance, and I particularly have a huge love for systems, hence the reason for this session today. So I'm currently CEO of Training Resources Group. However, today I'm speaking in my capacity as CEO of eSkilled. So yeah, today we're going to explore the systems and processes that will assist your RTO to exceed the draft standards for RTOs and hopefully deliver exceptional training at the same time. I'm going to focus on these 4 standards: so training and assessment, learner support, trainer competency, and the overarching standard of governance. We will we'll be basically looking at how you can use systems to not only comply but thrive against compliance with these standards. So just before we kick off, I'm really interested to find out a little bit of information. So I'm going to just drop a poll. So yeah, if you can answer this poll for me. So how many of you have read the new draft standards for RTOs, just out of interest? Okay, so you should see that question pop up. Okay, so we've got, at this stage, it looks like more people that haven't than have. So around about 63% haven't and 37 have. So a bit of a mix in the room in terms of understanding of the standards. So it's, yeah, for those who haven't seen the draft standards and they're seeing them for the first time, yeah, it should be really informative for you. So thanks, it's really helpful. And I'll end that and I'll share the results with you. Okay, so before we kick off, I'll just give you a little bit of information about eSkilled for those of you who don't already or aren't already familiar with eSkilled. eSkilled is a complete RTO management solution. So basically, we are a learning management system, a student management system, and we come complete with vet course content across hundreds of different units of competence across a range of training packages as well, with courses already built up, ready to go. That's a little bit about eSkilled. So good systems obviously improve compliance, efficiency in training, and as well as provide a seamless journey for learners. So from, online enrollment through to your SMS, LMS, supporting your learner through their journey and progression monitoring, assessment management, through to certification, compliance management, and reporting. So we're going to look at how these systems can support you in compliance against the draft standards and hopefully deliver incredible training at the same time. So we're going to kick off with looking at governance. And governance, which is standard 4 in the new draft standards, is obviously the overarching standard that sort of goes across all other standards within the new draft. It starts with collecting, reviewing data from staff, learners, industry, employers, and the regulator, or your regulator, and includes monitoring and evaluation systems. Also through to using that data for continuous improvement and risk management and mitigation. So basically, systems are obviously integral to making sure that you comply with all of those governance aspects. So let's explore how systems can help you do that. So we're going to kick off and look at trainer credentials and currency. So still, trainer currency is a major non-compliance area for RTOs, which is surprising given that it's been in place for a long time, and most RTOs are typically aware of what what they need to do in terms of ensuring trainer compliance. We get it, like ensuring trainer maintain qualifications, professional development, industry currency can be challenging, particularly for those RTOs with a large workforce. And that's where obviously having good systems, quality systems in place will ensure that your RTO maintains compliance with across all trainer credentials. So a critical part of that is having a well constructed trainer credentials management system. In our system, we call that a trainer matrix. A trainer matrix should do a number of things, not just a place to collect and collate all your trainer evidence. Obviously, that's important because you need to have that audit trail evidence for your audit trail. But more importantly, to maintain compliance, all of that trainer credentials, professional development must maintain current. And so having proper systems in place to warn your compliance staff and trainers ahead of time is obviously really critical. So within the eSkilled system, obviously we've got a place for where trainers can upload all of their trainer evidence, their credentials, professional development and industry engagement. But also we've got an automation system that allows you then to notify compliance staff, trainers, not only by email, but also tasks. So basically automatically assign tasks to your compliance officer to make sure that that evidence is updated before it's no longer current, not once it's expired. So yeah, trainer matrix is obviously critical to ensuring trainer compliance. So yeah, we've just noted there that tasks auto-created for trainer and compliance team emails. Within our system, you can also send text messages as well if you don't feel that emails are going to cut through. So obviously, complaints and appeals is also at the heart of the new standards, with ASQA really switching its focus to ensuring RTOs have solid processes for complaints and appeals, so students have an avenue for addressing any concerns that they have. So within our student management system, we have complaints forms. I recommend if you don't have a good complaint form process to capture those complaints or appeals, to do that. That automatically will populate the appeals or complaints register within the system. And most important is tasking that complaint out to somebody. Obviously, just having it in a register is not enough. Somebody needs to pick up that complaint or appeal in a timely manner and investigate it and respond accordingly and follow whatever internal processes you have for complaint and appeal handling. The other part, just before I move forward, so that obviously the other part of that task management is having a proper process. So within our system, tasks can all have checklists attached to them to make sure that whatever your task or complaint handling process is, that you task out that and have that checklist in place to make sure that whoever's managing those complaints or appeals is also following your internal policies and procedures for managing those complaints and appeals, and updating your appeals and complaints registers and communicating with students accordingly. So having proper processes in place is going to make sure that you don't miss a beat in terms of compliance against the standards for complaints and appeals, and making sure that you keep that really solid audit log. So when it does come time for audit, you've got all that evidence there to just bring out. So industry engagement is fairly similar from the perspective of, it's something that has to be constantly updated. You can't just go out and seek industry engagement once and have done it. It's got to be maintained and current and across all qualifications, units, etc. on your scope. So having processes in place for capturing all of that evidence is obviously critical in compliance with the standards, and notably in this slide you'll note that it actually features in governance as well as training and assessment. So that's how much of a focus that the regulator in the new draft standards is putting on industry engagement. So yeah, we've got an industry engagement register. Obviously, you can use spreadsheets for all this register stuff. We know a lot of RTOs do. The industry engagement gets recorded as it's done. Any assessment, any evidence of that engagement, whether it's surveys or whatever it might be, can be uploaded against that engagement record. Most importantly, again, and you'll notice a bit of a theme. I don't believe it's enough to have just a register. Obviously, all of this stuff needs to have a mechanism for following up, because believe it or not, again, industry engagement is another massive area of non-compliance, even though every RTO knows they have to do it, and it's purely because they don't have the systems and processes in place to make sure that before that industry engagement has expired or has lost its currency, that they're back out communicating to industry and updating their internal systems, but also feeding that information back into their continuous improvement policy, and we'll talk about that soon. So having tasks assigned to whoever's responsible for your industry engagement across qualifications is super critical. In our system, we've got an automations engine that allows you to automate that, notify your compliance staff, notify your trainer who's going to be seeking that engagement, and making sure that they're updating your systems accordingly. So for those of you that are with eSkilled, our eSkilled clients already, if you haven't set up your automations within your system to trigger these notifications, definitely get in touch with our support team and they can help you with how to go about that. It's pretty easy. So again, online learner and employer surveys, all your quality indicator data is obviously critical. Having systems in place to collect obviously that information, but not only collect it, collate it, analyze, review it. It's not just enough to get the surveys. It needs to be collected and analyzed. In our system, we've got it feeds automatically into a learner survey report or employer survey report, and within that report, we've got filters that allow you to basically filter and analyze the data. So if you wanted to see anyone that's disagreed or is unhappy with any aspect of your training and assessment, you can do that pretty quickly and easily. And if you're really excited and want to take that analysis to a further level, you can export that to Excel and go to town in terms of analysis. So all of that data analysis and collection and collation is useless if it's not being fed back into your continuous improvement process. So, and that's again pretty well laid out within governance at 4.6C of the new draft standards, where obviously you've got to monitor and evaluate that information that you're collecting and collating to inform your continuous improvement process to manage risks. So one other thing that I should point out that I haven't mentioned it because it doesn't feature in our system, but it is on our roadmap, and obviously you do need to have in place as an RTO in terms of that collection and collation of data, is your scheduling of your validation sessions across your scope of registration, so your validation schedule, and keeping a track and a record of that, and making sure that you're validating the appropriate amount of units on your scope annually. So look out for those clients that are with eSkilled, look out for notifications. It is in our pipeline where we will be adding validation schedules into the system, which will also feature with similar notifications. But make a note that if you don't have that good systems in place for managing that, obviously it's another massive area of non-compliance for RTOs currently. So you want to make sure that that's well covered. And again, the information from those validation sessions are feeding back into your continuous improvement system or register or whatever you're using at the moment. So within within eSkilled, we have all of those other systems that are collecting and collating data, and that the information that's coming from that, whether it's quality indicator data, whether it's industry engagement, should really be being fed back into your continuous improvement register. So you've got evidence of having done something with that industry engagement, for instance. So obviously, if it's not just enough to go engage with industry, you have to show the regulator how you've implemented that feedback into your training and assessment strategies. So keeping a track of that and feeding. Oops, sorry, I've just turned my phone off. That's a bit more to know now. So yeah, making sure that you've got you're then feeding that information back into your continuous improvement register, so you complete the loop, the feedback loop from collection, collation, analysis through to implementation is absolutely critical. So the continuous improvement register to me is the final part that shows that not only did you collect it, but you registered and you did something about it, and you've updated your TAS, you've improved your resources, you've done whatever you needed to do based on whatever feedback you've been given through that process. So besides all those other mechanisms for collecting, collating data within the student management system, students can provide feedback through the feedback form in their student portal. Trainers and assessors and all staff can also use the same feedback form within the student management system to update and provide feedback, and that's automatically recorded in the continuous improvement register. Same thing again. If you don't have it, you should have a mechanism in place for automatically tasking out those items to be reviewed and implemented within your RTO. And often that's the part that gets forgotten. Most RTOs have a continuous improvement register. They have an industry engagement spreadsheet. They've got a spreadsheet for everything, but often it's the implementation part that is a bit that falls over, and that's where non-compliance exists. So if you haven't got that automated process for follow-up, review, notifying people of that currency is going out of date, that's the part that I will be looking at filling the gap. So obviously, compliance goes beyond just some of the parts in the standard. So just touching on some critical points. So obviously your compliance management system also needs it to have good awareness, and if you're a CRICOS registered, CRICOS reporting mechanisms, USI validation, obviously fundamental, and mechanisms in place to making sure that certificates aren't issued without USIs, all that sort of stuff are critical. Again, the eSkilled system, you can't issue a certificate if your student doesn't have a valid USI, for instance. So if you haven't got those processes in place, you definitely want to make sure that you have. Funding, contract management, and reporting is often a real challenge for a lot of RTOs. eSkilled does that really well with contracts set up properly from the beginning. It makes it really easy to manage, and obviously document management from version controls, making sure that you've always got the most current documents available within the systems is obviously really critical. So another fundamental compliance requirement is getting your certification right, obviously against all the requirements and standards in AQF, but also having a good process for validity or validating your certificates. Within the eSkilled system, we provide QR codes for every client on every certificate, so there's no need to field calls from employers and other RTOs to validate your certificates. Anyone can literally scan a QR code on a certificate, which takes them to a website, your website, which will provide validity of who that certificate was registered or issued to, and the number and the date, etc. So it really just saves time for RTOs having to field all those validation emails and phone calls. So I'm a really big fan of business intelligence. I think data, obviously, when you're talking about governance, is absolutely critical to making good business decisions. Yeah, I just want to touch on business intelligence and particularly in relation to the governance requirements under the standards for RTOs, and just some of the things that systems can do to help you stay atop of all of those things that as a compliance manager or CEO, particularly CEO, you need to be aware of. So in any good system, compliance system, governance system, I think you should have solid financial management and reporting. Obviously, it's fundamental under the standards that RTOs remain financially viable. So our system does provide just really great financial dashboards that just give you a quick health check of your RTO, and those, as RTO managers or CEOs, we should be checking in on these things regularly to make sure everything is on track and traveling as expected. So things like, revenue by program, understanding which programs are making revenue, which aren't, projected payment plan revenue, so we can see our cash flows and how that's tracking. Revenue by location, so we can see whether locations are performing well or not, just at a glance. And obviously we want to make sure that we're maintaining our aged debtors, so invoices aren't going unpaid. So quickly via the finance dashboard within eSkilled system, you can literally jump in and get a pretty good health check. All that data is also synced if clients have integrations with Xero and MyOb. It's also all obviously going to be reported back to there as well. But again, I'm a big believer of having everything in one place if possible. So payment plans. So basically some other critical financial management things that eSkilled has, and a lot of other good student management systems have and should have, is obviously the ability to set up and manage payment plans so you can automate payments, automated invoicing, Xero and MyOb integration. I think all these things are really critical, because once you get systems out of whack, it becomes a real nightmare to maintain and understand your financial viability if things aren't flowing from one system to another and updating in real time. It's pretty easy to get in trouble if you don't have all that stuff sorted. Other dashboards that we provide just out of the box in eSkilled are things like enrollment dashboards. So any of your enrollment staff can quickly and easily see your enrollment stats, whether you've got applications to process. Any of that sort of thing is visible just straight off the bat. Enrollment completions is automatically reported on your enrollment report. So in the graph there, you can see total enrollments, and the blue bit in the graph shows completion. So you can quickly at a glance see if completions are looking healthy within different course areas. Identifying quickly and easily students at risk in any program. So just via dashboards, you can see if you've got problem areas within any program within your RTO. So in that example, it's showing students that are 75% through their course, but only 50% of their activities are complete. So already know they're falling behind, and it's time for intervention. Within our dashboards, you'll notice an export button, so you can quickly and easily just export that data out to a spreadsheet and provide it to a trainer. But you can also click, I can't show you on the slide, but click on that any program and view the underlying data, so which students are at risk within that program. And obviously there's further reporting within the system to help you with that. There's also again automations within our system which will help you stay on top of students at risk. And under the new standards for RTOs, that's a really big factor is student progression, and we'll touch on that a bit later. So students at risk of with low attendance. So again, for Cricos RTOs, but not just Cricos RTOs, we all want students to be turning up to classes and progressing. So being able to see low attendance at a glance is really helpful for RTO managers, trainers. Within our system, trainers have all the same dashboards. Obviously, they don't have the finance dashboard, but these enrollment dashboards, they would see the same reports, but just for their students. Whereas obviously, if you're an administrator, you would see everything across all programs. So this is also really great for trainers to immediately know, if they've got any problem students that they need to be supporting. All this becomes really important once you're at audit and ASCL wants you to show how you, manage progression, support students, and all that sort of thing. So having those systems in process for tracking, reporting, and being able to act on that as well, obviously most importantly, is essential. So where possible, I'm a big believer in automating everything. It's not always possible, but we certainly can, try and automate as much as we can to avoid things falling through the gaps. So automation doesn't just save time and reduce costs, it underpins good quality management systems by ensuring things get done on time every time. So within our system, we can automatically set up reports to be emailed to managers, staff, trainers on any schedule. So we talked about reporting, monitoring, and all that sort of those things in terms of governance. Information is king. If people know that there's problem areas, they can act on it. And so setting up those reports and having them fired to the people that it matters without anyone having to remember to do it, to me is super important. And, I know that even with eSkilled clients who have a lot of these functionalities and features, they haven't gone and set them up and they're not necessarily using them even though they're there. So, it's really important that we just take the time to do the basics, and then everything else will take care of itself. So I'm a big believer in set and forget. So, yeah, obviously we can automate emails and text messages to basically fire out for important or critical actions or notifications. Within eSkilled, our system will automatically sync your scope with TGA, training.gov.au, so as long as you've done the initial sync. Obviously, that's important from the perspective of ensuring that you're not delivering superseded or outdated qualifications. So within any program, if you go to the units within that program, you'll see whether it's current or superseded from our system. You don't need to go to TGA to check, which I think is another really critical aspect of just maintaining compliance and ensuring that you're always delivering current qualifications, another massive area of non-compliance. Obviously, automating your enrollment process is just good practice from the perspective of reducing costs and risk and error. So validating veterinary data at the point of enrollment rather than down the track when you go to submit your veterinary data and there's errors everywhere. So making sure you've got really good systems in place to get quality data from the outset, and automatically having units, your systems connected. So so your student management system is always up to date with your learning management system. So as the students complete and the LMS, the SMS is reflecting competent, and dates are correct based on completion, and all that stuff is super critical to complying with the issuance, because obviously if you're not aware that students have completed, you can potentially not issue them the qualification or statement of attainment that they're due, and obviously that's a compliance issue if you're not following your issuance policy and getting those certificates and statements to students on time. So automatically creating tasks, you've heard me talk a lot about it. just a big believer in tasks and task management, as you can tell, because I'm spending a lot of time talking about it today. But to me, that's really the basis of a really good quality management system is making sure things don't fall through the gaps and they get done every time, and things can't get forgotten, lost. That's where we end up with non-compliances. So automatically creating task checklists for anyone based on any system event. We spend a lot of time making sure that RTOs can do that. In our system, we've got a Kanban board, but it doesn't really matter what task system you've got as long as you've got tasks, and they don't get those tasks are getting completed. But the Kanban board does give you just a good visual representation of anything you've got open, in progress, overdue, or completed. In our system, you can just drag and drop tasks once they're complete. It will also not allow you to drop a task from in progress to completed if there's checklist items that are unchecked. So again, just making sure that everything that is required to be done within that task is completed before it's closed. Users are notified automatically when they log in if they've got overdue tasks or open tasks in the top right of their screen. So it's just really useful. But the thing that I love most is from a compliance management perspective, anyone that's an admin in the system can see the total number of overdue tasks within the system in that little red dot on the main menu. So there's really should be never a reason for any tasks to go unnoticed. And within that task administration panel, administrators can get right in and look at who, what, when, how is outstanding, but we don't have time to look at that today. So obviously tasks are important, but task checklists to me are the really critical, fundamental part of a really good compliance management system. So whether that's an enrollment procedure, whether that's a certification procedure, I recommend having a task checklist for every aspect of operational tasks that have any level of risk within your RTO to make sure that you've got it covered. You're not at risk. One useful benefit within eSkilled system is you can assign tasks, and I think we're the only student management system that you can do that, where you can assign a task to teams. So if you've got an enrollments team, like 2 or 3 people managing your enrollments, one task for a new application can come in via your online enrollment form, be assigned to that team to process. If you've got say a funded contract where you've got to review that application for whether they're valid for that funding, that can be assigned to a team. Someone can grab, at the moment that an individual grabs that task, it will disappear from the rest of the team, and away they go. They're now responsible for that task. So it just means that if somebody's away, someone's sick, someone's on holiday or leave, you are not at risk of not meeting whatever requirement that you should be meeting under the standards. So portals, I'm a big believer in portals. That's why we've got so many. So pretty much we've got a portal for everyone. The reason for that is, again, to make sure that you can manage your requirements, your compliance requirements within each of those relationships. For instance, the training provider, third-party training provider portal helps you manage your training provider partner relationships and compliance. It's actually a really massive area of non-compliance, and the reason for that is because once a training provider over here is delivering training for you, it's really difficult for you to maintain your compliance system if they're working to their very own systems and processes. So by giving them a portal, their portal also has trainer role, trainer matrix, all those things, and the trainer matrix is also going to notify your compliance staff if that third-party training provider has a trainer with no PD currency, no anything that's running out of currency. So to manage those relationships and maintain compliance, as long as you've got everything set up properly. So same with agent portals, you can decide what those third parties can do within your system, and give them some autonomy whilst also maintaining your compliance standards as well. So yeah, student portal, that obviously that's critical from the perspective of getting all that, you know, your appeals processes, complaints, all that sort of thing. So quality assessment systems is another massive area for non-compliance and RTOs, probably one of the biggest areas. Well, I think, am I right, Dave? Is it the biggest area of non-compliance? I'm pretty sure it is. RTOs still struggle with getting assessment right. And yeah, we've tackled that in a particular way with by building an online assessment builder within our learning management system that is designed to capture evidence, like vet-based evidence, because obviously the fundamental part of gathering assessment evidence is making sure that you're collecting skills in the correct format. So, you know, if all that doing stuff, we need to be capturing that in evidence that shows that the student is competent in that area. So, yeah, capture skills evidence from any device, and within our system, you can set up an assessment that if your assessors are on site, you can set, and you've got a more workplace-based course, you can have the assessors capturing that evidence from their device using the online assessment tool, or students can also just stream from their camera and submit straight into the system to make sure you're getting that evidence of that skills-based training. And workplace observation forms, or observation forms that don't necessarily have to be workplace with this system, ensure that obviously your assessors have all the critical requirements checked off and observed within the system. So in our digital observation forms, assessors, just as they check each item, the system will automatically date and time stamp everything. So it does save a lot of time as well. Obviously, your paper-based forms, and you've got to date everything, because our school wants a date against everything, right? They want to know when you observed it. So yeah, it just streamlines that observation process as well. Another critical component is the system won't update that student as satisfactory, or grade that student as competent or satisfactory in that task, unless all of those checkboxes are marked as yes. So you've got a sort of another check and balance to make sure that your students aren't being incorrectly marked satisfactory. So checklists is another huge component of angst often for, or third-party observations is another challenge for RTOs in terms of compliance and getting that information back from students and getting it collected and collated. So our online forms with digital signatures allow you to overcome the barrier of students having to print off third-party observations, take them to their supervisors, get them signed and checked, and get all the relevant information in there, and then obviously get it back and upload it into your system or back to your RTO, and your RTO has to scan it and upload it. So having it just automatically in the system that the student can provide their device to their supervisor just means you're collecting and collating that evidence directly into the system, and you're removing barriers for assessors and students. So yeah, digital signatures, automatic time and date stamps. So you can also create any workplace forms within the system. I think a big thing about this is a lot of RTOs, I think, are still stuck a little bit in the past, where they believe that sort of students still have PCs and printers and stuff at home, and you know, times have really shifted. These days, most students aren't using, you know, they don't have the family PC like they used to. Everyone's on a device, either a tablet or an iPhone, and so using document-based assessments becomes really challenging, whether to get it printed or scanned or get it back up into a system. So again, I'm a big believer of digitizing things to make it easy for students to work within the tools that they have readily available and reducing the barriers to completion. So yeah, our online assessment allows you to just drag and drop fields onto a page to recreate your sort of document-based forms into a like a wizard-based form. You'll see across the top that student just goes next, next, next. We've got one of our clients has built an entire business plan for their niece students using the same tool, and they collect and collate the whole range of data that they need just using one form wizard like that, and students update it as they go. So yeah, within that same digital form, you've got authenticity as well. So ensuring that you've got those digital signatures from either the assessor, from the learner, from the third party. Another big thing that I think a lot of RTOs still haven't clicked onto, as we spend a lot of time making RTOs aware of obviously the authenticity requirements around assessment. And it's not just online assessment, it's any assessment that's not completed in front of an assessor, right? So even if you're delivering class-based, if you send students home to do assignments, obviously you've got to be able to provide evidence that you've authenticated that somehow, that you know that that student completed that work, right? So using systems to do that, I think, is a really big benefit, because it can be really time consuming. So in ASQA's frequently asked questions, they were asked to provide examples of best practice, and yeah, number one was calling the learner and asking them questions related to assessments that they've submitted. Sounds great, but practicality of it is not overly easy all the time. Students aren't always available on the phone. They don't answer their phones. They're at work, and so trying to chase them down to just, validate one piece of evidence that they've submitted is obviously not the most practical solution. So again, I'm a big believer in using systems to do that. So yeah, setting up assessments with proctoring or webcam authentication is obviously a really useful way to do that. Our learning management system allows you to do that on a number of different assessments. So yeah, students, literally it'll, when they start an assessment, it will ask them to approve the use of their webcam in that assessment, and then it will take photos of them randomly completing that assessment. And the person in that picture is Christian. I don't know if you met Christian, but that's him there. So yeah, webcam authentication is going to save a huge amount of time in terms of authenticating evidence. And obviously then the assessor's job is just, if you've got that student's ID on file, the assessor just needs to check that evidence against whatever ID you have from that student, have collected from that student, whether that's on enrollment or whatever, and they can sign off that that is authentic. So if you don't have that process in place, I definitely recommend to get it in place. ASQA's definitely checking. So yeah, I'm a big believer of capturing evidence as much as possible online if you can, because I believe it just removes barriers for students, assessors, and everyone, and makes the whole process easier. And now we've got technology that can do proper skills-based assessment, using technology and tools. So yeah, we should be using it, whether it's logbooks or whatever it might be. All of those can be digitized. Yeah, creating and delivering amazing training. Obviously, that's the heart of it, right? Been talking about compliance for a long time, but yeah, we obviously need to be making sure that we're creating and delivering amazing training. The new standards for RTOs have a really interesting requirement. Obviously, we've always had to have our LLN assessments. Under the new standards, those LLN assessments have to happen prior to enrollment. I think that if you haven't noted that already, I think it's really notable, because obviously it means really looking at your systems and processes and how you're going to manage that. So we're currently updating our student management. So we already have the ability to create an LLN as a prereq, but we're just making some tweaks to that system at the moment that will allow you to do it pre-enrollment, if that makes sense. So or we can already link in an LLN, and we can already drop that into a student and not give them access to their units. That's already possible. So it's probably almost in compliance now, but there's just a couple of tweaks that we want to make to just make sure that there's no, that it's clear that the student's not yet enrolled. So yeah, that means providing them that LLN assessment and reviewing that LLN assessment, and not just the language literacy and numeracy. You actually have to look at their other competencies as well to make sure that they're a good fit for whatever program that you're enrolling them into. So there's a big new compliance burden, I think, put on the RTO up front before they even start that student in the course. We're just about to release spiky profiles into our learning management system. We've already got really good LLN assessments. Coming soon, we'll have a spiky profile that will sit on the student profile once they've completed their LLN assessment. And again, this is all in preparation for these new standards to make sure that it's going to be easy for RTOs to comply with that new requirement and do all that up front. And then basically the way that we're setting it up is that once, if that's all good, the assessment marks that is complete, and then they'll automatically be enrolled into their course and be able to continue through their course material, course content. So that's the upfront part. That's prior to, and then obviously once they are enrolled, you've got to make sure that you've got engaging, well-structured training. So just some points to note there. My understanding after speaking to quite a number of RTOs that have been through recent audits is that ASQA is really starting to focus on training. It used to always be about assessment. Now they really want to see the quality of your training, that it's structured, and particularly that your learners have enough instruction prior to being assessed that they have an opportunity to practice their training prior to being assessed. And obviously there's opportunities for feedback around that instruction and practice as well prior to being assessed. And that's important. And they want to see evidence of that. So, critical to that process is formative assessment. So if you don't have enough training activities and learning activities and you don't collect and collate or currently collect and collate evidence, you might have that, but you might not be collecting and collating evidence that you're doing that. I would definitely be making sure that you're collecting and collating evidence of not only the activities, but providing feedback to learners about their learning journey, because it's required under the new standards. This is just some interesting stats around flipped classroom that I thought I just stumbled upon this the other day and dropped it in. But the whole idea of blended learning. So flipping the classroom, so we use technology where we can to deliver the normally boring bits and focus on face-to-face training on skills assessment. And that way, we improve the learning journey. They can do a lot of the things that they want within the flexibility of their own schedules. And when they turn up to class, they get to do the bits that they enjoy anyway, right? The hands-on doing stuff. So, when you do that, there's lots of studies out. This is just a few. 90% of educators noticed increased student engagement, 71% rise in student outcomes, and 71% increase in student satisfaction when you do it well. So it's just obviously systems fit obviously in the center of that journey for a flipped classroom. So for those of you that are RTOs that are delivering purely online, obviously virtual classrooms are a really important tool in engaging students that aren't in a normal classroom environment. Obviously, if you're delivering blended learning, you can just get students into a classroom. But obviously virtual classrooms are stock standard within our learning management system. Every client gets it as standard, so there's no need for third-party systems like Zoom and stuff. So, and the good thing about those is any recordings can be saved straight back to the student's course too. But we've got chat, polls, interactive whiteboards, all of these types of things to engage learners and get them contributing in the process, and obviously then breakout rooms for those formative assessments and activities. The good thing is, like, we've got clients now who are are recording their sessions, and obviously then they've got all the evidence of those activities happening in their virtual classrooms, breakout rooms, everything is all there. So yeah, systems make all that evidence collection and collation really easy. It's automatically saved back into the LMS, so you don't have to yeah, download things and upload things from Zoom or anything like that. So yeah, within our system, we've got a bunch of authoring tools that, again, just allow you to level up in terms of interactivity and engagement. Again, we're talking about formative activities being really critical and providing students opportunities to practice. So yeah, we've got a bunch of activities there, over 50, including things like virtual classrooms, interactive videos, virtual tours, which I think is a really relevant one for vets. So, you know, get into a workplace, take your mobile there, wander around and video that environment. You can upload it into virtual tour, and then you can actually take a tour through the student through a tour of that workplace. And, you know, you can identify different things within the video. They can click on them and find out about those things before they go into work placement. Preparing, so you can properly prepare them for their workplace journey, right? But yeah, there's a bunch of different formative activities that you can do there to keep it engaging, fun, interesting, but also have, you know, improved learning outcomes. So yeah, I just put this up here again because it just came out as well. It's just everywhere I look at the moment, as was talking about formative assessment activities like never before. So again, yeah, just I think that you couldn't, if you don't have really good evidence of your training having enough learning activities, I would definitely be looking at that. They're even telling you, make sure if you're buying resources off the shelf that you've got those things covered. So yeah, just a little bit for those of you who don't know, eSkilled has a huge range of interactive courses already built in our systems. We already have a huge range of formative activities. We have e-learning modules which are all interactive, and then they also feature quizzes at the end, and then there's also quiz activities after those learning activities, just to fully embed those knowledge and skills that they're learning within those processes into their learning journey. And you've also got the ability to author your own cool stuff as well. So that's just an example of some of the interactive e-learning within the system. All of our courses relate back to simulated workplaces. So again, students can get that interactive feeling of being part of an organization and policies and procedures, and whether it's early years learning or fitness or whatever it might be, business. So yeah, I think making sure that your training is industry current, relevant, all those things is obviously crucial to maintaining compliance as well. We're just wrapping up now. So I just wanted to let you know about a really exciting development for us at eSkilled. It's been about 10 months in the pipeline, and we're on the verge of releasing our new AI course creator tool. So for those of you who would like to check it out, we do have a webinar coming up on that where we're actually going to take you through it. But basically what that tool does is it will allow you to literally create an entire unit of competence in an e-learning format that you can plug into any learning management system. It doesn't have to be an eSkilled learning management system. As long as it's got LTI compliance, you can just connect it straight into any LMS and it'll allow you to do that in minutes. With WYSIWYG, drag and drop, you can create simulated case studies and all sorts of really cool things using AI, all in context, all in industry context. So basically within the inputs, when you're setting up your course, you can say what your learner audience is, what your industry context is, and the course will be developed to that context. So look out for that if you're looking to develop, really engaging, cool content really easy. So that's really a wrap for me. Hopefully I've been able to give you some insights or some food for thought, and you've seen some value in this session, particularly around things that you can do to make sure that your overarching compliance and governance systems are fit for purpose, and you can exceed the new draft standards when they come out. Well, potentially come out in the new year, but to be honest, all of this is relevant to the standards right now anyway. So yeah, hopefully there's been some insights there. Thank you for your time. And yeah, if you want to join me on the 15th of May, I'm going to be running everyone through the AI Course Creator webinar, and I look forward to showing everyone that then. Thanks, everyone. Thanks for your time, and see you at the next one.